Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I was working as a realtor, just doing my thing, when I ended up helping my wife's lover buy an apartment. I had no idea who he was at the time, of course. This all happened before the pandemic hit. I was still working out of an office, doing real estate deals, when one day, a guy walked in. Pretty quiet, unassuming, seemed like a decent guy. He asked me to help him find a studio apartment. I got along with him well, and we ended up finding him the perfect place. Managed to get a decent discount, and I thought that was that. But then, earlier this year, an acquaintance casually mentioned that he'd seen my wife with a guy at this apartment complex. They were walking out of the building together, arm in arm. Later, they came back with bags of groceries. At first, I just brushed it off. Nah, can't be, I thought. She's always at work. How could she be in two places at once? But then I remembered, when the quarantine hit, she had told me their office was switching to a closed mode so they could keep working remotely. But when I really thought about it, she kept saying she was working like usual the whole time. That got me thinking. So I did something I'd never done before. I called her office. Managed to find the number somehow, and when I called, the person on the other end seemed pretty friendly. But the info they gave me had me reeling. Apparently, during the pandemic, they'd sent everyone home to work remotely, but the company went under. It had gone bankrupt, and in the end, they had to lay off all the staff. This all happened a year ago. Naturally, I was curious. So that evening, when my wife came home, I told her what I found out. She shared the things I'd been thinking. Her reaction? Well, it floored me. She wasn't even fazed. In fact, she calmly confirmed what I had heard, that she'd been seeing this guy for over a year. It hit me like a ton of bricks. But for the sake of our son, I just couldn't bring myself to tear everything apart. So I stayed quiet. So let me get this straight, I said to her, trying to keep my cool. You haven't worked for a year. You're living with another guy. You leave every morning at 8 o'clock claiming to go to work, then come back at 9 o'clock, and you just act like everything is totally fine. She raised an eyebrow, and her calm response completely threw me off. What's changed in the house since then? She asked, as if that was the most obvious thing in the world. I paused for a moment, a bit stunned. But then I realized, yeah, the house still had dinner on the table, groceries were always stocked, and she spent time with our son and me in the evenings. Still, none of that could make up for what I knew. The situation was too much to just let slide. I'm working, she said, nonchalant. Just for a different company. They helped me find something better. I've been managing the budget around here and spending what's left as I please. I got bored with you, honestly. I needed an outlet. But I've kept my role as wife and mother for our son. I still sleep here every night, so no need for reproaches. She stood up, firm in her stance, and walked out of the room. I sat there, just stunned, unable to process what she'd said. It was like the ground had been ripped out from under me. No, this isn't going to work, I said, catching up with her as she tried to leave. Not even for the kid. I can't live like this, knowing you're with someone else, pretending like everything's fine when it's clearly not. And my friends, they know now. They're going to look at me differently. After a long talk that went on for hours, we reached the inevitable conclusion. Divorce. We agreed that our son would stay with her and I would pack my things and leave. The plan was to tell him we had a fight and that I'd be living separately for a while. Eventually, we'd figure out what to tell him about the real reason behind it all. What happened next was pretty predictable. All the responsibilities I had been handling with our son during her work hours now fell squarely on her shoulders. He told me how she was always stressed, running around, barely able to keep up with everything. He'd go on about how she was home all the time now but wasn't really managing her time well, just getting more and more overwhelmed. As for the lover, he was practically out of the picture. Their meetings had become too rare to keep him interested. And that's when our son started asking to live with me. He said I had always been on top of things, knew his routine, and could give him the stability he needed. It wasn't long before he moved in with me. My ex had to clean up the mess she created. She took out a huge loan to help her lover buy this apartment, which I didn't even know about at the time. In the end, it seemed to her that karma had caught up with her.